Struggling nurse helps unknown patient realizes he's brother's secret. Welcome everyone to a tale unlike any you've heard before. Today, we dive into a story brimming with twists, tension, and the incredible power of compassion. Prepare to meet a nurse whose struggles seem overwhelming only to discover that a single patient, shrouded in mystery, holds a secret capable of shaking an entire state. When one act of kindness unlocks shocking truths about powerful families and hidden identities, destinies will be rewritten. Each turn in this dramatic narrative is laced with suspense, each reveal more astounding than the last. So sit back, listen closely, and let yourself be pulled into a journey of hope, betrayal, and final redemption. Before we dive in, if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss an update. If you're excited about this story, let us know. If you enjoyed the video, press 1. If not, press O. Your feedback really inspires me to gather more uplifting and meaningful stories. At Bellcrest Memorial Hospital, Ariana Morrow found herself overwhelmed by her mounting debts and dwindling energy. She held 2 part-time jobs across different floors, juggling the fourth changes and hospital bed cleanings, all while training new nursing hires at dawn. Despite her exhaustion, she'd hold a determined smile. She dreamt of one day walking the polished halls of Johns Hopkins Hospital, forging a better future. Yet each time she checked her bank balance, the sinking reality of student loans and unpaid utility bills reminded her just how precarious her situation really was. One rainy Thursday night, an unusual call came through. An unconscious patient had arrived, and Ariana was the only nurse available. Running down the corridor, Ariana noticed the storm raging outside. Lightning flashed through the hospital's tall windows, momentarily illuminating the busy emergency floor. The paramedics wheeled in a motionless figure on a stretcher, a man with bandages wrapped around his shoulder, face partially hidden by an oxygen mask. Ariana's heart twisted with sympathy. Something about the man's presence felt oddly intense, as though secret burdens weighed on him, even in his unconscious state. No ID was found, and hospital policy demanded a thorough check for personal documents. As Ariana scanned his pockets and found nothing, she had no idea that this moment would soon change her life forever. The admitting physician, Dr. Linton, frowned when all attempts to find the patient's identity came up empty. "Not even a phone," he remarked. Ariana carefully cut through the remnants of the man's torn dress shirt, revealing bruises across his ribs. "No wallet, no eye," she confirmed softly, while hooking up a saline drip to stabilize his blood pressure. Dr. Linton ordered a series of X-rays, suspecting internal injuries. Lightning flickered again, showing the stern lines of worry on Ariana's face. She caught a glimpse of something shiny around the patient's neck, a thin chain half tucked under his collar. Its pendant bore only a simple engraving, Carter, but that name would prove to be only one piece of a sprawling puzzle. After transferring the mystery patient to a quieter ICU room, Ariana stood guard by his bed. She kept replaying the name Carter in her mind. The chain looked expensive, suggesting some level of wealth. Who was this man? Did he come from a privileged background, or was it an heirloom passed down in a struggling family? Her fellow nurses cast sympathetic glances, yet Ariana could sense they felt uneasy about him. One co-worker whispered rumors of possible foul play, or perhaps a criminal background. Still, Ariana believed in giving each person the best possible care, regardless of speculation. This unwavering compassion would set in motion a chain of events no one could have predicted. Hours stretched on. Ariana tended to his wounds, carefully cleaning bruises and adjusting the fourth lines. Between tasks, she delved into the hospital system to see if Carter matched any missing persons reports. The database offered no results, leaving her more puzzled than before. A rumor had spread around the staff that the patient might be linked to organized crime. A night shift security guard had whispered about an unmarked car prowling the parking lot earlier. Chills ran down Ariana's spine, but she swiftly reminded herself that rumors often grew out of fear. In truth, she felt compelled to protect this unnamed individual, though she couldn't yet explain why. Late the next afternoon, Ariana arrived at the hospital staff lounge to grab a quick cup of coffee. She was met by the disapproving gaze of Helen, a senior nurse notorious for her sharp tongue and suspicious nature. "Still fussing over that John Doe?" Helen asked with a forced laugh. "We have enough real patients, Ariana. No sense coddling criminals." Ariana tried to hide her frustration. She knew the struggles she faced: student loans, her father's medical bills, her sister's rent. She often felt invisible, overshadowed by those who were more financially stable or well-connected. Yet Ariana also knew that she'd never regret caring for someone who needed help. Returning to the patient's room, Ariana was taken aback to find him partially awake. His eyes fluttered open but remained glassy with confusion. She offered a reassuring smile. "You're safe at Bellcrest Memorial. I'm Ariana, your nurse. Do you remember anything?" His gaze flickered to her face, then down to the fourth line in his arm. He tried speaking, but his voice emerged as a rasp. "C. Carter." The single word, matching the pendant, confirmed it as his name, or at least the name he responded to. Ariana gently propped him up, noticing that behind the dazed look, his gaze flickered with caution, as though harboring dangerous secrets. Desperate for more information, Ariana asked, "Can you remember where you're from or how you got hurt?" Carter pressed a trembling hand to his forehead, fighting through apparent memory gaps. Eventually he offered a cryptic sentence: "I can't trust them." A shiver crawled down Ariana's arms. She had dealt with patients suffering from mental confusion, especially if they had head trauma. Yet Carter's words seemed more like a warning, like he already knew people were searching for him. Ariana tried to remain calm, promising Carter he was in good hands. Just then, monitors beeped wildly, signaling a dip in his oxygen levels. Ariana rushed into action, calling for respiratory support. While waiting for the respiratory therapist, Ariana couldn't ignore the creeping sense that something big swirled around Carter's admission. She recalled another detail. Upon cutting away his shirt, she noticed a small tattoo on his inner forearm, a cluster of letters that looked like initials. She had glimpsed MG before bandaging the area. Ariana told herself it could stand for anything, but a strange hunch whispered that it connected to a larger narrative. Meanwhile, Carter's vitals stabilized with quick intervention. The short crisis passed, leaving Ariana drained yet more determined than ever to ensure Carter's safety regardless of the shadowy circumstances. That night, Ariana returned to her cramped apartment, an overflowing stack of bills greeting her on the kitchen counter. She realized she had used her last paycheck to buy her father's expensive heart medication. A sinking feeling threatened to overwhelm her. No matter how hard she worked, the debts only multiplied. She tried to distract herself by browsing job postings online, including staff openings at Johns Hopkins. The salaries were better, but the competition fierce. Her phone buzzed with an unknown number. Expecting a collections call, she braced herself, but the voice on the line caught her off guard. "This is Dr. Linton. Something's happened with your patient. You might want to come back." As Ariana raced back to the hospital through the dark streets, her mind reeled. Dr. Linton didn't typically involve nurses after hours unless it was urgent. Could Carter have taken a turn for the worse? Anxiety weighed heavily on her, fueling her to push the accelerator harder. By the time she arrived, the hospital corridors looked eerily quiet. She found Dr. Linton at the nurses' station, speaking in hushed tones with two police officers. They turned as Ariana approached. Dr. Linton's voice was tight. "These officers want to speak with you about Carter. He's missing." Ariana felt her heartbeat slam in her chest. One of the officers, a stern-faced woman with a crisp uniform, asked Ariana to recount the events leading up to Carter's disappearance. Ariana explained everything: how she found him unconscious, how she cared for him, and how he regained partial consciousness earlier that day. The second officer interrupted. "We searched the security footage. He slipped out the side entrance wearing a borrowed coat. No sign of forced abduction, but it's suspicious he left with no discharge. We need to know if he mentioned anything, any detail." Ariana shook her head. "He only said, 'I can't trust them.'" The officers exchanged a glance filled with meaning Ariana couldn't decipher. With Carter gone, Ariana felt as though she'd let him down. She stayed late into the night, scanning every angle of the hospital's security footage. It showed Carter emerging from the ICU door, moving with remarkable steadiness, despite his injuries. He avoided the main lobby, slipping through a service hallway. Ariana noticed a figure in the shadows near the side exit, a tall individual who seemed to pass Carter a coat. The footage was grainy, but Ariana swore she glimpsed the silhouette of a firearm. Why would Carter take such a risk if his injuries were so severe? The question gnawed at her as the night wore on. The next day, Ariana's manager handed her an official warning about getting too involved with patients. A co-worker explained that Helen, the senior nurse, had complained about Ariana's questionable judgment. Mortified and furious, Ariana wondered if she'd ever get out from under these constant attacks. Even so, her concern for Carter overshadowed everything else. She pored over any leads she could find, rummaging through hospital records of patients named Carter, searching local news. That's when she stumbled upon a passing reference to a Carter Martin Greaves in an old article related to the state's gubernatorial elections. The coincidence with the initials MG on his tattoo made her heart pound. The article was over a decade old, referencing a tragedy in the Greaves family. Martin Greaves, father of current Governor Oliver Greaves, had once been embroiled in a scandal involving a secret will and hush money. Many details were redacted, but one snippet stood out. Rumors circulated about a disowned son named Carter, who vanished from public life. Ariana's pulse quickened as she reread the text. Could her patient be Carter Greaves' estranged brother to the sitting governor? If so, why was he in hiding? And who had been after him? These questions buzzed in Ariana's mind, and she sensed danger was closing in. Troubled but determined, Ariana decided to gather as many facts as possible. She needed to confirm Carter's identity. If he was indeed the governor's hidden brother, he might be in grave danger from political enemies or even from allies wanting to keep certain secrets buried. Mustering courage, Ariana reached out to a reporter friend, Sam Tyler, who occasionally covered hospital stories. She laid out what she knew, swearing Sam to secrecy. Sam hesitated but ultimately agreed to look into the old Greaves family records. "I can't promise anything," Sam said, "but if you're right, this story could upend the entire state government." Meanwhile, Ariana couldn't shake the feeling that she was being watched. It started with odd occurrences. Her car door left ajar, footsteps echoing behind her. In the parking garage, a black SUV idling across the street from her apartment for suspicious lengths of time. Paranoia sank its claws into her. She considered telling her shift supervisor or even Dr. Linton, but she worried they'd just dismiss her concerns. Then, one late evening, she entered the hospital lounge to find the TV broadcasting a breaking news bulletin. Governor Oliver Greaves was scheduled for a major press conference the following week. Rumor had it he'd address family matters that might affect his political standing. Ariana's heart hammered with dread and curiosity. 2 nights later, Ariana worked the graveyard shift. The hallways grew quiet around 2 a.m., except for the hum of medical equipment. She stood by the window, gazing at the distant city lights, lost in thought about Carter. Out of nowhere, a voice nearly made her jump. "Nurse Ariana, right?" She turned to see a man in a neatly pressed suit, wearing an ID badge that simply read G. Winters, Independent Investigator. Ariana hadn't heard of him before. He offered a disarming smile. "I'm looking into the recent disappearance of your patient. Could you answer a few questions?" Something about him raised every alarm in her mind. Still, she forced herself to stay professional. Inviting him into an empty consultation room, Ariana stiffened when he began asking extremely detailed questions. Carter's injuries, the time he regained consciousness, whether he confided anything unusual. Ariana gave only standard medical details, refusing to disclose personal information. Investigator Winters frowned. "You're certain he didn't mention a family connection? Someone in politics, perhaps?" Ariana feigned ignorance. He barely spoke. "I'm sorry, I can't be more help." Winters nodded, but his eyes glinted with suspicion. As he turned to leave, Ariana noticed a small pin on his lapel, a stylized crest with the letter G entwined with a sword. She wondered if it was linked to Governor Greaves or a private security firm. The next morning, Ariana found Sam Tyler's text message waiting on her phone. "We need to talk. Urgent." She met Sam at a local cafe where Sam disclosed shocking information. "The hush money scandal was bigger than reported," Sam said, sliding over old court documents. Carter Martin Greaves was rumored to have threatened exposing their father's illegal campaign financing, which would have destroyed Oliver Greaves's political ambitions. Instead of letting the scandal go public, they hid Carter away. The father claimed Carter was a troubled son, but the truth is murky. If your patient is that Carter, it explains why he's gone to such lengths to remain anonymous. As Ariana flipped through the documents, images of Carter's injuries flashed in her memory. She imagined the pain, both physical and emotional, if he'd been forced into hiding by his own powerful family. Sam continued, "If Carter's alive and he resurfaces, it could devastate Governor Greaves's administration. People might assume the governor conspired to keep him out of sight, or worse." Ariana's mind churned with possibilities. If the governor's circle found out Carter was in the hospital, they might have tried to snatch him or coerce him into disappearing again. Guilt gnawed at Ariana for not keeping him safer within the hospital, yet she hadn't known the extent of the danger. Ariana's determination soared. She resolved to find Carter before something terrible happened to him, but she needed a plan and help. She confided in Dr. Linton about the situation, leaving out explicit details that could put her in legal jeopardy. Concern and fear etched across his face. "If your suspicions are correct, we're dealing with a political hornet's nest. Be careful, Ariana. You're already on thin ice at work." His voice softened. "But I can't blame you for wanting to protect this man. Let me know if there's anything I can do quietly." Though Ariana felt slightly reassured, a new wave of dread settled in. This was no longer just about one patient. It was about toppling an entire system of lies. Over the next few days, Ariana discreetly asked around the hospital for any sign that Carter might have returned or sought further treatment. She learned that a prescription for powerful painkillers had been filled at a nearby pharmacy under a false name. Digging deeper, she discovered that the address listed on the pharmacy records led to a dilapidated motel on the outskirts of town. That evening, still in her scrubs, Ariana drove there. She felt her heart pounding as she approached a flickering neon sign reading Restway Motel. The place oozed desperation, scattered with broken porch lights and shady figures loitering outside. She prayed she wasn't walking into a trap. Knocking softly on the door, corresponding to the pharmacy address, Ariana braced herself for confrontation. A muffled voice responded, and after a hesitant moment, the door inched open. Carter stood there, frail and gaunt, clutching a makeshift bandage on his shoulder. His eyes widened with shock at the sight of Ariana. Why? She stepped inside, quickly shutting the door behind her. The room reeked of alcohol and stale air. I had to find you. Are you okay? Ariana breathed, her voice barely above a whisper. Carter collapsed onto the edge of the bed, wincing with pain. I'm not, but you shouldn't be here. It's not safe. Despite his caution, Ariana couldn't abandon him. She carefully removed his bandage to find an infected wound. He'd been trying to treat it himself with store-bought antiseptics. She rummaged through her emergency medical kit, administering antibiotics and dressing the wound properly. Through clenched teeth, Carter revealed more of his story. My father disowned me years ago for threatening to expose wrongdoing. Oliver the governor always supported my father, no matter how dirty the secrets. I escaped, living off-grid. But I came back recently to gather evidence that could clear my name and finally stop their corruption. I was ambushed. He paused, eyes dimming with fear and anger. I never wanted to involve you. Ariana's mind spun. Everything Carter said validated the rumors. He had once been close to the center of the Greaves family's wealth and power, but was cast aside. His presence alone threatened to tear down the governor's carefully cultivated public persona. Ariana saw the conflict in Carter's eyes. He wanted justice but feared losing what little semblance of safety he had. You need proper care, she insisted. If you don't get that infection under control, you'll be in serious danger. Carter grimaced. I can't go back to the hospital. Too many eyes. You saw how quickly they tracked me down the first time. Ariana understood the danger, but felt compelled to help him anyway. Carter revealed a battered leather bag stuffed under the motel bed. It contained folders, flash drives, and a small black notebook. All I've gathered, proof of illegal campaign funds, hush money payoffs, false testimonies. Enough to ruin Oliver and his cronies. Ariana gasped, the weight of what she saw sinking in. But who's after you? She asked. Carter frowned. Private enforcers loyal to my family's interests, plus some unsavory individuals who'd profit from blackmail. If they catch me, I might not make it out alive. A hush fell between them, the gravity of the situation more terrifying than anything Ariana had faced before. Suddenly, the motel's exterior lights flickered, and Ariana heard footsteps outside the door. Carter motioned for silence, his face etched with alarm. Through the gap in the curtains, they spotted the silhouette of a man wearing a suit jacket, possibly another investigator or hired thug. The door handle jiggled. Ariana's heart thundered. Carter quietly handed her the leather bag, then reached for an old revolver hidden under a pillow. Ariana stifled a gasp, but Carter pressed a finger to his lips. The tension was suffocating. After what felt like an eternity, the footsteps receded. Still trembling, Ariana realized there was no going back now. She was part of Carter's fight. They decided to flee immediately. Packing Carter's few belongings, Ariana helped him slip out the back window, the sound of breaking glass momentarily drowned by thunder as the skies unleashed a sudden downpour. They sprinted through the muddy parking lot, adrenaline surging. A black SUV roared to life near the entrance. "Run!" Carter hissed. Ariana's shoes splashed through puddles, fear driving her forward. She fumbled for her car keys, unlocking her small sedan. They peeled out onto the road, the SUV's headlights glaring in the rearview mirror. Carter clenched his jaw against pain, barking directions through the storm, leading them to a back road that wound away from the main highway. They drove for nearly an hour, thunder growling overhead. Carter's infection worsened, and Ariana worried he might pass out. Finally, they reached Ariana's friend, Sam Tyler's place, a secluded rental cabin near the state border. Sam answered the door, eyes wide at the sight of them, drenched and panicked. Within minutes, Sam rummaged up blankets and hot tea, while Ariana cleaned and dressed Carter's wound again. Sam stared at the evidence in the leather bag, brows knitted in apprehension. "This is political dynamite." Ariana nodded, voice firm. "We need to bring it to the right people, but we have to be careful. If Oliver finds out, Carter's life is forfeit." Over the next 2 days, they strategized a plan. Sam used media contacts to discreetly verify certain documents, ensuring they were legitimate. Meanwhile, Ariana cared for Carter around the clock, managing his pain and infection. As his strength returned, Carter's resolve hardened. "I won't run from this anymore," he declared. Sam arranged a secret meeting with a federal investigator known for integrity. If they handed over the evidence at the right time, specifically just before the governor's press conference, they could catch Oliver off guard. However, the risk was astronomical. If even a whisper of their location leaked, Oliver's team could unleash chaos. Despite the terror, Ariana felt a spark of hope. Maybe this was the path to justice. The night before the governor's press conference, Ariana, Carter, and Sam drove in 2 separate cars to a neutral location, an abandoned courthouse on the outskirts of a neighboring city. There, they met federal investigator Sarah Delgado in a dimly lit corridor. Delgado reviewed the files with grim fascination. This is enough to indict half the governor's circle," she said, mouth set in a hard line. Ariana felt a swirl of relief and dread. Carter stepped forward, voice steady despite his trembling hands. "I'm done hiding." Delgado nodded, understanding that Carter was prepared to publicly stand as a witness. The moment felt like a turning point, but the greatest danger was still ahead. Back at the cabin, they hunkered down to wait. The plan was for Delgado to finalize legal steps that would protect Carter's testimony, then stage a dramatic reveal at the press conference. However, in the early hours of morning, they got word from Delgado. Oliver Greaves had abruptly cancelled his scheduled press conference, citing a family emergency. Fear clawed at Ariana. Did Oliver suspect something? Or had someone on Delgado's team tipped him off? Carter clenched his fists. He can dodge the press conference, but he can't dodge federal investigation forever. Ariana wasn't so sure. Political machinery could be ruthless, especially with a family empire as powerful as the Greaveses. In a stunning turn, national news outlets began receiving leaked copies of Carter's evidence. Social media exploded with allegations of corruption in the Greaves administration. By midday, multiple journalists claimed Carter Greaves, rumored to be the governor's hidden brother, had come forward. Even though Carter had not yet spoken publicly, the documents were impossible to ignore. Ariana watched in awe as the story trended on every major platform. Within hours, the governor was forced to address reporters outside his mansion. Standing at a lavish podium, Oliver's usual smooth demeanor faltered. He gave vague denials, but the question on every journalist's lips was the same. "Governor, do you have a brother named Carter, and did you orchestrate his disappearance?" At that moment, Carter, Ariana, and Sam arrived on the scene with investigator Delgado, flanked by federal agents. News cameras swarmed, capturing Carter's arrival in real time. The stunned governor stared, face draining of color, as the brother he'd abandoned approached. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Carter stepped onto the sidewalk, ignoring his trembling limbs. He pulled out the pendant chain with the name Carter etched into it, a relic from his childhood, unmistakably linked to the Greaves family. Ariana's heart thundered with emotion. This was the moment of truth, and no political spin could erase the raw evidence in Carter's possession. Before Governor Greaves could react, federal agents confirmed they had received damning documents implicating the administration in fraud and bribery. The governor's PR team tried to push reporters away, but it was too late. Microphones and cameras followed every word as Carter addressed the public for the first time in over a decade. He recounted how their father had demanded he keep quiet about illegal campaign funds, how Oliver assisted in covering it up, and how threats were made to keep Carter in exile. The crowd listened, riveted. Ariana watched from the sidelines, tears in her eyes. Finally, the truth was unleashed. Chaos ensued. Shouts erupted, and Oliver's security detail tried to shield the governor from the barrage of questions. Then, Helen, the senior nurse from Belcrest Memorial, appeared in the throng, her face flushed with shock at seeing Ariana's involvement. Ariana felt a surge of defiance. Helen had belittled her for caring too deeply. Now the entire world would see that Ariana had done the right thing. Meanwhile, Carter held nothing back, detailing evidence from the Black Notebook. Investigator Delgado confirmed that charges were being prepared against high-ranking officials. Ariana saw Oliver's expression flicker between fury and panic, as if he were a cornered predator preparing a final, desperate move. Amid the frenzy, a group of onlookers cheered Ariana and Carter, applauding their bravery. Camera flashes illuminated Carter's gaunt form, the bandaged shoulder peeking through his coat. Ariana stepped beside him, placing a supportive hand on his arm. In that moment, reporters pivoted toward her. "Nurse Morrow, why did you risk your career?" Ariana's voice quivered but rang loud, because compassion is the cornerstone of healthcare and humanity. When you know someone is in danger, you don't walk away. The crowd murmured approval. Ariana's phone buzzed non-stop with messages from hospital co-workers, friends, and even strangers thanking her for standing up against corruption. Within hours, the Attorney General announced a formal investigation into Governor Greaves's administration. Oliver was forced to step down temporarily while the legal process began. Later that evening, news outlets labeled the day's events the greatest political upheaval in state history. Ariana drove Carter back to the hospital, this time with official federal protection. Belcrest Memorial staff gawked as they entered. Dr. Linton hurried to examine Carter, while Ariana assisted, unbothered by the stares of co-workers who once questioned her every move. In that instant, it felt like a karmic retribution. Ariana's compassion had saved Carter, and in turn, he had helped expose a dynasty's wrongdoing. Helen peeked in through the doorway, a mix of shock and grudging respect on her face. Ariana calmly directed her to fetch more bandages, no trace of apology in her tone. Meanwhile, Carter's breathing steadied as the infection was treated properly, his vitals slowly stabilizing under professional care. Federal agents guarded the corridor, and Dr. Linton quietly squeezed Ariana's shoulder in affirmation. Though exhausted, Ariana felt a sense of liberation. All her struggles, financial debt, overshadowed efforts, disrespect at work, had led her to this pivotal role in unveiling a historic scandal. She had no regrets, and she sensed that something new and hopeful lay just on the horizon. Over the following week, revelations rained down like a monsoon. Crooked lobbyists admitted involvement in hush money payouts, top advisors resigned en masse, and Governor Oliver Greaves faced a flurry of indictments. Carter's name became a symbol of resilience, referenced in headlines from local papers to national broadcasts. Supporters hailed him as a whistleblower, while skeptics questioned why he'd waited so long to come forward. Through it all, Ariana stayed by Carter's side, ensuring he healed physically and emotionally. She also faced unexpected changes in her own life. Donations from grateful citizens arrived at the hospital for her father's medication, and job offers, including a surprising inquiry from Johns Hopkins Hospital, landed in her inbox. On a crisp afternoon, once Carter was stable enough, he joined Ariana for a walk around the hospital's healing garden. He expressed gratitude for her unwavering kindness. "Your compassion compassion saved me, Ariana. Without you, I'd either be dead in a ditch or imprisoned somewhere." She shook her head, smiling gently. "All I did was care for a patient in need." Carter gazed at the sky, reflecting on the wave of change they had triggered. He still grappled with complicated emotions toward his family. His father had passed away years ago, and Oliver had tried to erase Carter's existence. But now, Carter felt free, ready to forge a life on his own terms. Shortly thereafter, investigators uncovered even more incriminating evidence, enough to secure convictions against many of Governor Greaves's allies. The scandal overshadowed everything else in the local political sphere. One by one, those who tried to bury the truth found their reputations, if not their freedoms, stripped away. Ariana witnessed the karmic wheel turn as unscrupulous lobbyists, corrupt advisors, and power-hungry bureaucrats fell from grace. Helen's petty complaints also fizzled, and the hospital administration recognized Ariana's exceptional courage and dedication. Everything had changed. Ariana could barely fathom how quickly her life transformed from financial despair to a blossoming future full of promise. On his final day of treatment at Bellcrest Memorial, Carter quietly slipped out of his hospital room and handed Ariana a small envelope. Inside was a check that could pay off her remaining student loans in full, plus a handwritten note for the nurse who risked everything for a stranger. "Thank you for giving me a second chance at life." Tears blurred Ariana's vision. She tried to refuse, but Carter insisted, "I want to do this. It's the least I can offer after what you've done for me. Besides, it's just a fraction of the inheritance Oliver tried to hide from me. You saved my life. Let me help you chase your dreams." Ariana walked Carter to the hospital exit, where Sam Tyler waited to escort him to a safe location. Reporters congregated outside, but they respectfully parted as Carter passed, many offering words of support. Ariana watched him depart with a renewed sense of purpose. She knew she'd likely see him again once the legal battles concluded, but this chapter of their story was ending. As Carter disappeared into the crowd, Ariana felt a profound gratitude, a sense that genuine kindness could indeed ripple outward, toppling even the mightiest structures of deceit. And so ends this extraordinary journey, a testament to how one courageous act of compassion can set off a chain reaction, reshaping the destinies of everyone involved. From a struggling nurse weighed down by debt to a hidden brother battling a powerful legacy, the sheer courage it took to fight for justice proves that ordinary people can spark monumental change. In a world often overshadowed by corruption and fear, this story reminds us that loyalty, love, and truth can endure against overwhelming odds. If this tale of resilience and retribution has captivated you, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe. Together, let's keep these important conversations alive and never stop believing in the power of doing what's right.